Hey everyone, Sujin Patel here. Today I'm going to talk about how to get your first 1,000 customers with little or no resources, just yourself, a lot of time, and a little bit of elbow grease. You've spent the last 15 weeks building out your product, and let me just say, exciting times await. Not just with your product, but I just heard you're graduating in a few weeks, and congrats on that. Such a great achievement. I know you're probably a little tired and excited for the last few weeks of school, and maybe a little anxious or nervous about the next step in life, but it is going to get better and a lot harder, just as it is with your business and your idea here. It's now time to acquire customers. I'm going to talk to you about how to get your first 10 customers, then go from 10 to 100, and then go from 100 to 1,000. That's the way the presentation is framed. A little bit about myself so you know who I am and where I come from. I've been doing digital marketing for about 13 years. I'm the co-founder of two software companies, contentmarketer.io and narrow.io. I went a little nuts last February and I decided to pursue two ideas at the same time with two different co-founders. And they both worked out. I kind of took a gamble and they both did well. ContentMarketer.io has 4,500 paying customers. Yes, I count paying customers, as you should too. And Narrow has about 1,200 customers. And we did the same things I'm going to mention in this presentation to get our first 10, 100, and 1,000 customers. The same premise, and with little or no cash outside of hosting costs and a few miscellaneous things. I consider myself a growth marketer as I focus most of my attention and marketing dollars or time on acquiring customers, building brand, but usually through digital channels. I also am an avid blogger and writer. I write about everything I test or learn or things I do the hard way, aka the fun way, on my site, sujinpatel.com. And I also write about a whole lot of other things on business, marketing, and entrepreneurship on Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, and many other places. And I'll tell you why a little later, why I write for so many places and how it's a part of my strategies. So stay tuned as I go through getting your first 1,000 customers. All right, now we're going to talk about how to get your first 10 customers. 10 is such an easy number to comprehend. I can count to 10 on my hands. So it shouldn't be that hard to get 10 customers. And I want to start with 10 because it's an easy number to comprehend. You can count on your hand. You can put tally marks in your hand, whatever, and you can write it down. It's a very simple, easy number. It's not daunting, and that's what we want to start with. Simple and easy. So first and foremost, you should have a pre-launch marketing plan, or at least certain things or simple things you're going to do before you actually launch your product. And I'm talking months, maybe even 6 months in advance. I find 6 months is probably the longest you can wait before people get anxious or people just lose interest. And too long, lose interest. Too short, you didn't build a big enough list. So first and foremost, use something like LaunchRock or any type of splash page, landing page software like InstaPage, Lead Pages, Unbound, Optimizely, and don't worry, all of this stuff is in the book. But at the end of the day, you should build something that represents your brand before your software, your product, your shirt, whatever you're selling, whatever you're making is ready to produce. In fact, at ContentMarketer.io, we didn't even build our product and start a single line of code until we had a landing page and about 1,000 email opt-ins. I wanted to see how many people I could get to even be interested in my potential solution. And that brings me to my next point. Point number 2, the second way to get your first 10 customers. It's to vet out your idea and talk to potential customers in advance. I'm talking about right after you launch your LaunchRock page, your landing page, the second thing you should be doing is, okay, figure out what features are important, what's really the key. If you're building something physical, it probably takes even longer to do. So you want to talk to people as early as possible, and you want to try to talk to your potential customers, people that actually buy from you. And guess what? Keep those people. Keep a list of those people and ask them, hey, give me $1, give me $1, and pre-buy this product. So get people to pre-buy your product even before you develop it. Make sure you're going to build it. Don't take people's money. That's not the point of this. But the point is to get people so excited about your idea that they're willing to pay you right now. In fact, you can easily create a Stripe account or a PayPal account and get them to pay you $1. If they're willing to give you a credit card up front, that means you've done something right in your conversation or in your pre-launch landing page. So that's great. If you can get that, now let's fast forward. You've launched your product, or you're ready to launch, which you probably are at this moment. Now it's time to reach out to your extended network, your Facebook fans, your friends, your grandma, whoever you have connected to right now, and their connections. Whatever kind of circle of influence you have, you should be able to sell to them. Not that that's going to be your end customers, but if your friends and family are not even willing to support you, you probably shouldn't have done the idea. So your friends and family and your what I call the extended network, that's idea number 3 to get your first 10 customers, should be able to at least get you to 5 or 6 customers. And your pre-launch list and all the other things would get you across the finish line. All right, number 4 is to start sharing your story and blogging as early as possible, because blogging, all that is it takes time. And if you're not a good writer, well, hey, you got to fork out some cash or get better at writing. I used to suck at writing. In fact, how I got better at writing was I started talking. I did videos and audio, and I sucked at that, and I just kept doing it. And then I would have a transcriber take notes and or like send it over to the transcriber, have them take notes, and I would edit it. And then over time, I just started writing my thoughts down and it got better. But at the end of the day, if you're going to start a business in 2016 or later, blogging and writing, some form of writing, has to be a part of your core strategy at some point. So start early, get good. Founders are not good at everything. Entrepreneurs are not good at everything. Their skills mostly pertain to getting good at things. So you're going to have to get good at that. Anyways, that's my last rant on blogging and writing. And I can tell you, actually one more rant on that. I can tell you that with Content Marketer IO and my last couple companies, we built millions of dollar businesses solely based off blogging. In fact, last year alone, blogging brought me over $1 million in sales. And that's huge because it doesn't cost much more than time and then building an audience, and blogging also builds trust. So it's a lot more value. All right, number 5 is you can do some social share plugins or software that essentially make people share it to either get access or to join the wait list. So if you rewind back to your launch page, if you were to use some software, and again, the software is listed in the book, so don't worry about exactly the right ones. Just go through the ebook and you'll find it. And what I'm talking about is essentially sharing to unlock access, sharing to join the wait list. Tons of companies have launched this way. It's a great way to get every one of your potential customers, your email list, or anyone vaguely interested in your product to help you spread the word. And you're starting to leverage the network effect. And if you're starting to leverage it within your first 10 customers, you're way ahead of the game. Well, that's how you get your first 10 customers. All right, you've learned how to get your first 10 customers. Now let's talk about how to scale that and get your first 100 customers. It's not as daunting as it may sound. The first and foremost thing about getting your first 100 customers is to make your brand and your design of your website, your product, your packaging look very, very polished. That is the one thing that can help you stand out and look professional, even if you're just one person in the garage. That's worked really, really well for me. I try to puff my chest. Imagine if you just saw a beautiful man or woman walking down. You want to look the best you can look. This is the same thing with your website. So lead with your best foot forward. Include any press mentions you've got. Even if it's a small little site or a small blog that's talked about you, lead with that or include that at least. Get testimonials. And if you don't have testimonials, talk or include the conversations or quotes or sound bites or transcribed sound bites from the people you've talked to about vetting your idea. You can literally say, I'm excited about this product or idea. It doesn't even have to be about the actual products. Just something about your company, your brand. It could even be about you personally to at least get started. Again, you want to make your business and your website look like $1,000,000, even if you're in your garage. This is the thing I did with my first business, single grain marketing agency, aka just me actually, in my apartment. And we didn't put an about page because there was just me. We talked about our core values. We kind of beat around the bush, but made our website so polished that we competed or looked like we were competing with these multi-million-dollar companies. And here I was, about 20 years old, in my apartment, actually, that my parents were paying for in college, doing this. And no one knew the difference. Obviously, when they talked to me and whatnot, they got an understanding that I was a younger guy, but they've already had a psychological or some sort of impression from my website. So they thought at least some level of professionalism was there. So that's number one in how to go from 10 to 100. Make it look like $1,000,000. All right, number two is outbound emails. This is the best way to get started with very little money and just time. It's just write people emails. Salespeople still do this, especially in the enterprise B2B space, selling software, anything high end, high price, or high contract value. Outbound emails or outbound sales is the best way. This is kind of like a cold call, but over email. But hey, it works really well. Now make sure you don't be really annoying. Keep your emails short and to the point. Always follow up. And I'm going to include a link to a presentation I gave earlier on how to actually give or how to do outreach emails or outbound emails. So it'll give you all the whole things, and it's the whole topic on its own, but it's very important that you know all the basics and the nitty-gritty behind it. And you can really get traction here. So think about it this way. You've identified your target customer, and let's say they're doll collectors. Well, how do you find doll collectors? Maybe there's a forum online, or maybe there's blogs out there. Maybe there's a community or a meetup group. Well, maybe there's members there. Reach out, get involved in that community. And that's kind of brings me to my second point is find out where your customers are hanging out, or your ideal customer, your potential customers, where they're hanging out. Build relationships with the customers themselves, but also where they're hanging out. Be there, comment on blogs, participate in forums and or online communities. Go offline and go connect with these people. It works. In fact, with Content Marketer IO, we're a content marketing tool. There's a lot of content marketing tools. There's so many that people have written articles on the best content marketing tools. If you search for on Google content marketing tools or any of those variations marketing tools, there's hundreds of articles that rank well. And there's a lot of people searching for that. So what I did was I went to all of the top blogs that were ranking on this site. So I Googled content marketing tool and I just commented. And there's if you Google that right now, there's about 7 sites that are articles or 7 articles that rank well, and they're all talking about the best content marketing tool. If you scroll down enough, you'll see a comment from me that says, "Hey, I'm launching this content marketing tool next month," or "Hey, I would love for you to test out my content marketing tool," or "Hey, here's my favorite tools, blah blah blah. I especially like the fact that this tool does X," and again, I'm contributing value, not just promoting myself. That's one important thing to do with outreach or in commenting or any participation in to your ideal customers or potential customers. And then I comment saying, "Hey, I also launched a tool called Content Marketer IO. Check it out. It's blah, 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 and it helps you do blah, blah, blah." So that's what I did. And that brought me 513 new leads. And it was awesome because it took me about 3 hours. It took me about 3 hours to actually write those comments. And I didn't do like 100 comments. I only did about a dozen or so, maybe 13 or 14 in total. But because I was doing it, I was commenting on sites that were ranking high on Google, I got a lot of that residual SEO traffic. So it's a good way to combat that. Now, I talked a little bit about connecting with your customers. Well, you also got to connect with the who's or the influencers in the space. You got to build a network and relationships with these people. At the end of the day, if you're trying to grow a business, you need to network with people either in your business, selling, similar businesses, or people similar founders, or your ideal customers, and get to talk to them. Have a real relationship, and obviously, naturally, that what you do is going to come up, and then bam, you talk about what you do and divert people to your website. So, networking and building real relationships is a very big part of business. In fact, last year, I wanted to prove to myself how impactful, how big networking and relationships are to growing a business. So every day I set this really lofty, crazy big goal that I didn't think I was going to hit, which was to connect with one new person every single day, and one new marketer, one new person in my industry, a marketer or founder or like a startup founder. I run SaaS companies, and so I wanted to talk to SaaS marketers, SaaS founders. And so I did. I reached out to people, I pegged them a compliment, and I said, hey, I read your blog post, really love this, this, and that. It helped me do this and that, and check it out. Here's what I did. And I didn't lie. I remember I talked to you about writing a blog and telling your story. Well, I shared my story. And so I connected their article to my story and how I actually applied it. And people love when you apply what people wrote about. You connect the dots, you build the relationships. And I just said, hey, we'd love to brainstorm or see if I can help you, you can help me, whatever it is. And we jumped on the phone. I did this hundreds of times. In fact, I took this so far as I traveled to various countries and locations, and I hosted these dinners with like exclusive marketing dinners. Really, I would invite whoever would show up. I paid for the dinner. I was just pretty much doing this alongside speaking engagements, or when I was going to conferences, or traveling to visit my parents back in LA. And just say, hey, throwing this dinner, so and so are coming. Let's get together. Let's talk. And what I did was I connected with 368 people, some of which I gave advice, some of which gave me advice. A lot of people, we built this community together. We have a Facebook group, and now we have a Slack group, which is a great channel to continue to communicate. And we talk all the time. Some of these guys are now my very, very good friends, and we've helped each other. Some of these guys, because of me, have launched businesses. And I'm not bragging here, but what I'm getting at is that relationships and networks are very, very key. In fact, because of these 368 people I connected with, I've gotten mentioned over, I believe, 300, maybe 400 times last year. I forget. I stopped counting after a few. And so many doors have opened. So many doors to guest posts on sites. I talked about writing for Forbes and Entrepreneur and Inc. and all these places. A lot of that came to be because of these core relationships I built. And so, although networking and relationships might not get you direct sales, it will get you the thing that gets you the sales. And that's just as good, especially when you're trying to scale to 1,000 customers. And remember, we're still on 100. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is reaching out to influencers. Still in the same vein of networking and relationships, but now I'm talking about reaching out to influencers who have a clout or have influence in your industry or to your ideal customer. So who are your influencers? You can literally find them by Googling top, insert your keyword or category or whatever your product does, like the simplest version of it, bloggers, top writers, top marketers, top insert topic people to follow on Twitter. Whatever it is, these are simple Google searches you can use to find articles that list out influencers. And I guarantee you, there's a list of influencers for doll collectors. I kid you not. And it talks about the intricacies of making a doll and like the collections. And I'm not a doll collector myself, but I'm telling you, it works in almost every single industry, even the most kind of rarest industries or kind of niche. So you want to find these influencers and you want to give your software or your product away for free. Now, here's the thing. You don't want to ask for anything, although you do want them to review your product. You do want them to share it. You do want them to endorse it. But by asking influencers who get hit up all the time, and when I say hit up, people are always reaching out to other people that are, that have one leg up on them or have an influence, asking for something. In this case, don't ask. Maybe give. Maybe this is your time. Maybe this is you give them a tip on their website, or tip of like, hey, I read that you did this and I saw your blog. This is broken. You should check it out. And you get your foot in the door that way. And then, like, hey, by the way, not selling you. I'm launching this and this. I'm a Stanford student and I'm busting my butt to get this product off the ground. And check it out. I'd love it if you check it out. My teacher's gonna give me extra credit. That part you could probably leave out. But at the end of the day, you just want them to really just be a little unique, be human, and get them to just give a crap about you for 10 seconds. And then your product or your software, or whatever you're selling, whatever you've built these last 15 weeks, has to take it from there. So the key thing is, don't reach out to 1,000 people, even if there's 1,000 people or 10,000 people immediately. Go slow and steady, get feedback. If people say, hey, your stuff sucks, well, take it with a smile on your face. Take those notes, because these guys know what they're doing. They didn't get there overnight. And maybe make those changes, or thank them for giving you feedback. And this is probably some of the best feedback you're going to get as well. So you're going to get feedback. You're going to get potentially relationship with these influencers. They may even share it because they love it so much. When I launched my book that you guys just got, I reached out to every influencer in this that was mentioned in there. So the book strategically mentioned influencers. It mentioned about 500 people, because there's tools, there's articles, there's examples of people doing a great job at whatever tactic I'm mentioning. And I reached out to everybody that was mentioned. I reached out to various influencers and I asked them to, hey, check out my book. I wrote it. Here's a free copy. Or I actually said, would love to give you a free copy of my book. And I just want your feedback. I just want your 2 cents on, am I crazy or do I have something here? Because I put my heart and soul into it. So I kind of was a little personal, and I didn't even send them my book until they responded, and then I sent them my book. So you can do things like that. But that was how I propelled and launched that book to get around about 5,000 sales in the first few weeks. And I'm self-published for this book, so I had no support. I had to do all the marketing and sales myself. And just as I did with Content Marketer.io, I actually didn't write any part of the book until I got about 500 customers with my pre-launch page. But anyways, it works. Influencers and building relationships with influencers is one of the keys to getting your first 100 customers, especially if you have a $0 marketing budget like I did. All right, the next thing is you want to reach out to publishers. Wait until you have a few influencers on board that have said something nice about you, until you have some customers that gave you testimonials, or maybe even videos and whatnot of like your product, your whatever your product or whatever you're selling, your software is. It's relevant. Get some testimonials, get some social proof before reaching out to publishers. It's very, very important that you do that before reaching out to publishers, because you really only have one shot. You might have 2 shots if the person that's the publishing decision maker in that category quits their job and gets replaced, or somebody replaces them and they get promoted. That's a really big if. And I'm not waiting my business on somebody getting promoted or leaving their job. So make sure you have one chance. And again, the article and presentation I'm going to send to you later is going to talk a little bit more in depth on how to reach out to influencers. And I have a couple other videos that you probably need to know before you reach out to publishers. But guess what? They can write about you. I mean, they will write about you if you get the right pitch. Keep in mind, these guys get pitched hundreds of times a day. But if you stand out, it will work. All right, the next thing, and this is, if you're not keeping track, we're at number 7 here. The 7th thing to get your first 100 customers is retargeting. So retargeting essentially puts a little cookie on a person who visits your site, and you can follow them around with advertising essentially based off of what they do on your site, or just by visiting just for the very act of visiting your site around the web. And what that means is it makes you look, or what it does for you is it makes you look like you're everywhere. And you may actually not be everywhere, and that's okay. But you're everywhere to your customer. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So retargeting is a great way to do it. There's tons of tools, perfect audience, ad roll. You can do Facebook ads, and I'm going to get to that way later in the presentation. But retargeting is a great way to do it, especially to people that have visited your blog. And people that have visited your blog, you show them ads about your product. People that have visited your product, you don't just sell them with your product. You can do a little bit of that too, but you give them more value with your blog content. So they play hand in hand. And I'm going to go a little bit more into in detail about using blogging and content marketing to get past 100 customers, but that's a little later on in this presentation. So retargeting is a very powerful way, and it's very cheap because you only pay for people that actually visit your site, and you're going to end up spending a few $100s. At Content Marketer IO, my tab is about $300 because $300 a month. And it's not a lot, but it works really, really well. And so check it out. It might not work for you, but it's worked for almost everyone I've talked to. All right, now the last thing is about how to be everywhere for your customer is guest posting, is content again. So you may not get publishers to pick up writing about your product, but what if you got bloggers or publishers to pick up your content? And guess what? Now your content, your brand, your personal brand, or your company name is on other people's sites. Now building an audience is really, really tough. So guest blogging and blogging on your own site is tough because you have no people to market to. You got to get that audience, and that takes time. And you know what? Getting your first 100 customers, you don't have time for that. You got to get customers, right? So guest blogging helps you because your blog post, your content is now in front of other people's site. You can't guest post without blogging on your site, so it's like the chicken and egg. You probably want to guest post, but you need some of your own content. And again, I have a lot more content on my blog and a couple links I'll share with you that go into more detail on how to do guest posting and how to work your way up. Now, be realistic. If this is your first time blogging and guest blogging, you're probably not going to write for Forbes tomorrow. It might not be for a while, but you can work your way up there. And you probably don't even need to write for Forbes. You probably need to, let's use a doll collection industry again, the niche. There's probably only 25 blogs that matter in that space. Well, all you have to do is blog on those 25. What you do is you start with the weakest one, weakest in the sense of traffic and how much, essentially how many shares they have, and you can judge strength or how authoritative a site is simply by the number of shares their content gets or how old their content is. If there's a content on a doll collector's blog that's always being published, a site that is producing content every single day, well, that probably might be a little tough to get into. If you do a Google search, site : that website domain name, and then space quotation guest post end quotation, you will find out if they accept guest posts, because they'll have an article. If they do accept it, they'll likely have guidelines published online. And so it's a quick way to find out if you can guest post. In fact, another way to hunt down guest posts is doing another search, like the keyword plus the plus sign guest post in quotation. So check that out. That's going to give you all of the sites in your space or your whatever keyword you search for that accept guest posts because they have published their guest post publications. Now, keep in mind, it might be a little crowded, so I like to do the bottoms-up approach, meaning get the smallest sites, get one or two articles there, and then pitch the bigger sites. And I pitch them saying, hey, I write for this site, and those the small sites, and I have my own blog. And then you kind of work your way up, you keep doing that, and this is not a overnight thing. This is a 6-month, maybe even longer. It could be shorter if it's a smaller industry or you're just that good. But it works. So there's my tips. Either any of those 2 or 3 of the tips I just mentioned so far can help you get 100 customers. One of them, just commenting on blogs, helped me get 100 customers. Guest posting helped me get over 100 customers. Networking and building relationships helped me get thousands of customers. Outbound emails, that was how I got my first 50 customers. So I know it will work. And again, read up on all these things, and you're going to have to go more in depth. But these are things you can try today with very little to no cash. In fact, there's only one. Retargeting costs you a few $100. All right, we've talked about getting your first 10 and 100 customers. By now, you've probably learned a few things on how to get customers for free. Well, now it's time to go a little different direction. When you go from 100 to 1,000, it's really about figuring out what has worked in the past and continuing those things, or doubling down, maybe even 10xing those things, um, and and killing or canning things that just didn't work for you. A lot of things are probably not going to work for you. A handful of things are going to work for you. What I found is from going from 100 to 1,000, everything I've tried, whether it's a couple dozen I mentioned so far, or other ideas I came up with on the fly, or like yourself, you came up with on your fly, on your own. Um, it You're gonna find out really what's gonna work for you. You're gonna find out maybe 3 to 5 things that's gonna work. You're gonna continue. You're gonna continue to kind of keep testing out new strategies. But at this point, it's all about scaling what's worked. Now, I can tell you there are three main channels. Three main channels in digital marketing. First and foremost is inbound, SEO, content marketing, any type of traffic that you get, that you earn that traffic. Number two is paid. There used to only be paid search and display ads. Now there's also paid social. Paid social is Instagram, Facebook ads, and so on. Those LinkedIn, Twitter ads, those are very, very powerful. I'm going to talk a little bit about Facebook ads. And the third way, I believe, is emails. So by now, you've been in business for not a long time, but a bit, because you've got your first 100 customers, your legitimate business now. You've built somewhat of an email list, and you want to keep growing that. And how you do that is through content marketing. So the first and foremost tip from going to 100 to 1,000, I'm going to talk about is content marketing. What is content marketing? It's continuing that blogging that you did early on, but now there's a purpose. There's a reason behind it. There's maybe a little bit more detail. It's not just writing blog posts that you think would be helpful. Now it's writing blog posts that have search volume. That means people are searching for those questions. Maybe those forums and communities I asked you to participate in or be a part of. Look at those top questions people are asking there and write a blog post about that. What I'm getting at is content marketing is simply being smart about what you write about. And it's not just writing blog posts. Now it's writing ebooks. Maybe it's creating these videos, presenting. It's leveraging any form of content, video, audio, images, whatever, written content, social media, like an image with a quote on it, Snapchat, whatever that is. That's content marketing. Yes, you're using social channels, but at the end of the day, you're producing content and you're using to market it. So you're pretty much leveling up your blogging. And the next part of content marketing, which is really 3 parts. Part 2 is education. You can use the blog post you wrote. You can use the content you're producing to market your business, also to educate your potential customers and educate your customers. If you look at Content Marketer IO and everything I learned from launching that business in the last year and a half, is that writing really good content and educating the customer or potential customer makes for an even better customer. In fact, we have our customers complimenting us all the time on how much they love our blog. And that's the only thing we do to keep educating our customers. We don't write fancy, we don't make fancy videos. We don't do anything else besides write 1 blog post a week and email our list. And all of our customers get it, and our potential customers, because there's a big people that signed up, and the potential customers like it because they get more value, and I keep giving them more value until hopefully one day they convert. I show them sometimes how to use Content Marketer, and our customers love it because they get to learn how to use Content Marketer. So those are very great ways to leverage your content. Now, don't just educate of saying, hey, this is how you use Content Marketer to do this. No, nobody cares about how to act. It's not a tutorial or a how-to video, how to build IKEA furniture. This is how to use your software, your product, whatever you're selling in real life. So I talked about in my educational videos and content I wrote is like when I moved to Austin, how I use Content Marketer to connect and build relationships and do business development locally, and how I use Content Marketer. I scanned a bunch of articles of the top founders or top VCs in Austin, top marketers in Austin, top XYZ in Austin, and I scanned those URLs in Content Marketer, and we found the email address. That's what we do. But anyways, I use my product to connect with people locally, and I talked about it. That was the education that we did. All right, now to number 3. I talked about this already. It's actually one of the last points I hit on in how to get your first 100 customers. It's guest blogging. By now, you've probably figured out a lot of things that don't work in guest blogging, but probably a few angles that do work. So scale those things. Get and use content. If it has worked for you to get customers, continue to do that, because you could build your audience, and sure, you're going to continue to build your audience, but what better way than to piggyback off other people's audience? And if you do 10 guest posts a month, great. Well, now you have 10 different audiences that are coming back to your site. They're getting exposure, then you're going to retarget them. And so this whole machine starts working, right? And along the way, remember, I didn't talk about this much, but collecting emails is a big part of it. And you don't have to do anything fancy. You can use something as simple as Mailchimp and getting people to subscribe and giving them value. But again, with content marketing, you want to start creating those types of value. And here's a little secret that hopefully isn't really that big of a secret. It's kind of hidden in plain sight. You could turn your blog post, let's say your top most successful blog post, into a small little ebook, and you can give it away for free. Because although you've written that post already, it's been out for maybe a while, it's still new to some people. It's still new to the people that came today and didn't see that. So that's number 1. That's the first thing to do from getting from 100 to 1,000 is to invest in content marketing. And remember, elbow grease and time still can work if you're willing to write. If you want to go further, hire a writer. You can use services like expresswriters.com, Contently, and there's a ton of them. I can keep going forever on this, and a lot of them are mentioned in my book as well. All right, number 2 and 3 are really the same thing. Is Facebook ads. So you can use Facebook ads, and I'm not going to get through Facebook ads and explaining exactly what to do in a 30-minute or even 5-hour presentation. You're going to have to look into it. I recommend joining John Loomer's class, Jon Loomer. I believe it's johnloomer.com. He does a great course on how to leverage Facebook ads and how to use Facebook ads, set it up, all the little specifics, and adespresso.com. They have great blogs on how to get started with Facebook ads. But I'm going to talk to you about the premise of how to use it. There's 2 ways to leverage that one tactic and that one channel. One is if you have a lot of competitors in the space, or a competitor that is much, much bigger than you, well, great. You can target your competitors' audience. It's very easy. You can target their fans. You can target that company. People have liked that page. People have had some sort of interaction, and it's not that difficult. That's the first way. Now, number 2 is you want to target your ideal customer. If you've learned anything from getting your first 100 customers, and maybe even few hundred customers, you've probably learned a little bit about them, who they are, what they like. With Facebook ads, you can target somebody that, let's say your ad targets doll collectors. Well, maybe, just maybe, and I know the answer to this, there's a fan page for doll collectors. Maybe there's a people say, I'm a doll collector, as their interest, and you can target based off interest. You can target things based off what they like. You can also target by their profession, their income, their decisions, or not decisions, if they have kids, if they're married, and so on and so forth. And the more granular you get it, the more granular you get your campaigns, the cheaper it gets, because you can create hyper-targeted ads. So one thing I did recently, at South by Southwest was I launched ads to people just local to Austin in the 10-mile radius about South by Southwest and coming to my party and or an event I was doing, which is, quote unquote party. But anyways, and it worked really, really well. We got traffic for a few cents. So check out Facebook ads. Again, you're going to want to learn way more about this because this is something that takes days, weeks to learn, even a whole class to learn. All right, number 3. So the third way is to turn your 100 customers you got into advocates. And how do you do that? First and foremost, with customer support, which you're going to have maybe problems, maybe people are just saying thank you. Well, show them thanks back. In fact, show them thanks first. Use your content to send to them. Send a handwritten thank you cards at wheniwork.com, which is the company's shirt I'm wearing here. We use thank you cards. We send a thank you card to every one of our customers. And what does that do? It gets them to love us, our brand, and our company, not our software, the solution that we provide, but just the company alone, without anything else we do, because we showed them, we treated them, we surprised them. So look into what's called customer delight, and that's the best way to turn a customer into an advocate. And remember, treat people like human beings. Give them. I had a student at Content Marketer IO, we do training. The other day, he signed up and paid $1,000 for our content marketing training program, and he didn't join. I emailed him a few dozen times. And, finally he gets back to me a month later, and he's like, I had a death in the family. And look, here's what we did. We gave him his money back, first and foremost. We said, hey, look, you're not paying for this. You're still going to be in it whenever you're ready to join. So we gave him free access, gave him his money back. I'm sending him, this happened the other day, and we're sending him flowers and a handwritten thank you card about our condolences for his loss. And he mentioned money is tight, so we're going to teach him a few other ways to make money. Hopefully, he appreciates that. Even if not, being a good human being and as a company giving a crap about your customers will never hurt you. It might not get you 1,000, but I guarantee you it's not going to hurt you. And it will help you. We've made at wheniwork.com customers cry from joy. And those customers, I guarantee, have told their friends. In fact, half their customer base, their growth comes from word of mouth. So we know that facilitating that word of mouth helps a lot. All right, number 4 is co-marketing with other businesses. Just as in guest post, you're leveraging someone else's audience, you can co-market with businesses that have similar customers or similar personas and say, hey, let's partner up. We'll do this for you to our customers. You talk about us. And typically the best ways to do that is like an offer email, and they email their list and you email your email list about special promotions, or you do a joint webinar where you email both your list and get them on a webinar. And at the end of a webinar, remember, the webinar is not about your service or product or whatever you're doing. It's about value add. And that's where the content marketing comes in. You take all that content, your best content, and you turn it into a webinar. So you're repurposing it. It's really important. Repurpose your best content. But anyways, you turn your webinar, and at the end of all this value and education you gave your potential customers from both businesses, you now give them a little bonus offer, a promo, the same promo you probably would have given via email, now via the presentation. And again, because you've got these maybe 100 people, 200 people, they're giving them a lot more value, and they're ready to buy. They're primed to buy. They're engaged in the conversation, and they're ready. So that's a great way to do it. Again, test it to see if that's a viable strategy for you. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with, this is number 5, is here's the harsh reality, is you're not going to know what's going to get you 1,000 today. You're not. There's just no way. You may get lucky. Maybe some of you may have an idea, a great idea of what's going to get you there. But you're going to have to test. You're going to have to poke. You're going to have to fail. And that means you're going to have to get back up again. And that's okay. You're going to have to fail many, many times. But you only have to succeed a couple times. In fact, you only have to really succeed once, but you need a couple strategies. So let's just say 5 times out of 100. And that's okay. It'll work. So of those 5 times, scale whatever has worked for you. That's all. You're not going to know all the challenges that lie ahead, just like in life. And you probably will take that when you graduate. But at the end of the day, test things rapidly. Don't invest lots of time into things that are unknown. Try to get some sort of hypothesis and size the opportunity, and bam, there you have it. Well, thank you all for listening to me rant about how to get your first 1,000 customers. I hope this was helpful. In just a few minutes, I'm going to be joining a live Skype call and answering all of your questions.